Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on 1 year anniversary of the dastardly attack by the Gaza on Israel. And what transpired 365 days ago needs no introduction now. And things since then have changed and changed for good. Joining us to discuss further this morning is Zwika Klein, editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. Rika, I know you are in Tel Aviv and the situation there must be somber. This is one morning that Israel would always want to forget, but situation as such does not allow so. 365 days later, how is it that the families and people are holding up there?
So good morning from Jerusalem, actually.
Hmm.
And it's overwhelming. We just published our cover this morning with 10 words, basically saying, there are no words to explain what happened. Um, and on the one hand, as you said, Israel is still in a moment of pain and of remembering those that were killed, but also, in the past few weeks, Israel has been succeeding in many military operations, something that
Yes.
has both, long term will help Israel, but also assisted Israeli pride and Israeli nationality. I think it's something that definitely
Mm.
affects the day-to-day, feeling of Israelis, whether it attacks in Lebanon, attacks in Iran, a
Yeah.
potential attack in Iran in the near future. So all those together kind of a bit ease the pain, though I would say it's just still so overwhelming, still hundreds of thousands of Israelis who haven't been able to return to their homes.
Hmm.
Um, Thousands were killed. So it's definitely not a day, it's not an anniversary, it's a commemoration day, and while we're
Hmm.
still at war.
Right.
Just this morning,
Hmm.
6:29 is when Israel stopped for a minute to remember what happened a year ago, and
Hmm.
then the exact minute, Hamas sent rockets at southern Israel. So, as much as Israel is a strong and powerful
Hmm.
army, etc., they still have the ability to shoot rockets at civilians. So that's the situation that has to change.
Right, absolutely. And Gaza, after staying silent for some days, with the focus shifting on Hezbollah, the fight against Hezbollah. Now, Gaza choosing the same day uh, to inflict more injuries is something which is unimaginable. Zvika, more than 1,400, 1,500 people killed in that attack. And now, on the other side of Gaza, roughly around 40 to 45,000 people have lost their lives. Uh, at one platform, you see it as the right to retaliate. On the other, if we talk about humanitarian situation at this point of time, Prime Minister Netanyahu too has rejected the peace and all the efforts that were made by several Western allies. Do you think the way Israel is choosing to go, the path that it is taking as of now, is the only path available?
Just want to correct two things that you said. You
Hmm.
mentioned the numbers of casualties in
Hmm.
Gaza. That is debatable, including the United Nations saying that there were mistakes
Hmm.
made because it's a Hamas-run health ministry.
Health
So
Ministry, yes.
it really is unknown exactly. And
Hmm.
also, unfortunately, Hamas did not allow many civilians to leave when the IDF kept on telling them day after day, leave this area because we are going to bomb or search for terrorists.
Hmm.
As for Prime Minister Netanyahu, also he actually did agree with too many
Hmm.
peace suggestions by countries, by the negotiators, as well as suggest his own peace agreement and
Right.
uh, release of hostages, Israel releasing terrorists with blood, on their hands in return. But Hamas kept on changing the conditions or just disappearing and not giving an answer. So regarding
Right.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think first of all, there may have been more to be done at a certain point. I think now he's definitely, after he's said yes so many times to a peace treaty, and succeeding in a military operation in so many fronts, 7 fronts, his popularity has surprisingly actually grown within Israeli society, and you see it
I
in
was
all the
meaning
polls,
to
all the
ask that.
surveys. Yeah,
I was meaning to ask that domestically how Bibi has fared. I mean, is he facing some sort of internal heat also? We heard him giving the ultimatum to France President Macron, and he made an impassioned speech, I must admit.
yeah. So at the beginning and after the war, for many, many months, he was rock bottom when it comes to public support in polls. He still is not a very positive figure for most Israelis, or for, let's say, at least half of the Israelis. Um, that said, there have been many successes, and if your opposition is supporting what you're doing, it's kind of a win-win situation for the person who's running the country.
Right. One final question, Zvika. I know it's early morning there. You have to continue with your official work also on this very, uh, I would say, not a red letter day, but a day that Israel won't forget ever. Uh, Middle East has been pulled into this equation like never before. And Iran, no matter how silent it tried to stay with its proxies, Hezbollah doing the frontal war,
I don't know if it
now,
tried to stay silent or not, but yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I mean, yeah. So
they try
every
to have his proxies make the noise and then them just talking but not doing. Yeah, exactly.
yes, absolutely. Do you think that Israel wanted Iran to know that they are not going to take this quote unquote silence from Iran, lying down? And now what is unfolding, the direct conflict between Iran and Israel, where does it go from here?
So Iran, I mean, I would just disagree in the fact that Iran has been silent. Iran,
Hmm.
their leaders have been saying for decades they will not acknowledge the existence of the state of Israel. They call it the Zionist state, which is fine. I see it as a compliment, but they won't call it by its name. They seek the destruction of the state of Israel, and they say it out. It's not even like insinuated. They say it. They say Israel should not exist. Um, and so I think Israel, and definitely because of all the direct and through proxy attacks on Israel, and Israel, because it has seen Iran as a threat for so many decades, just like they were able to allegedly, according to foreign reports, blow up thousands of pagers and cell phones at the exact moment they wanted to, and kill terrorists, and to exactly eliminate Ismail Haniyeh, head of the political wing of Hamas, in Tehran without, in a very secure area, without harming anyone else. Israeli intelligence is so strong
Right.
in Iran, and it's just a matter of time until those capabilities are going to be shown. And this
Right.
is something that Israel has said outwardly. And at the beginning we called this the Israel-Hamas war, but it really isn't. It isn't the Israel-Hamas war. It's the Israel-Iranian war, because the
Absolutely.
Houthis, Hezbollah, um, you know, militants in Syria and in any other country around the world that's shooting
Mhm.
rockets at Israel now, just
Are the
because
enemy, are the enemy of
they're
the
all
state.
they're all funded by Iran, and they're all identified with Iran.
Right, right, absolutely. And yes, uh, the final assault, the final blow, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has promised once again that victory will be theirs. Zvika, we spoke earlier also in this course of 365 days. This is our second or third interaction, I remember. We hope to speak in better situations in the coming days or years. Are we seeing another anniversary attached to this this whole episode, or do you see the war finally reaching to, or the retaliation finally reaching its conclusion soon?
I try to be optimistic and think that, sometime within this next year, there will be an end. It's just very difficult to imagine because there are 7 fronts, and even more, I guess. But there's um, so many details that need to be worked out in order for this war to end. I think it is inevitable at a certain point to stop, and also think of the day after this, because Israelis haven't really had the time to think about that, but it's definitely something that we need to think about. I do also want to say that I think, from my many conversations with the Indian diplomats, and obviously these are things that happen under the radar, but India has been a very close ally of Israel throughout this time, assisting Israel militarily, intelligence-wise, etc. And I think that's something that, in a time when Israel feels more isolated, and probably is more isolated than it was a year ago, definitely from Western countries, that are now asking it to retain and to stop and to reconsider,
and the statehood of
shooting back.
Palestine also.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, or acknowledging one side acknowledgement of certain states. I think the friendship and the support we've been receiving from India, and as I said, most of it is quiet, as Indians do, in a very smart and sensitive way, is something that is most Israelis aren't even aware of. I am aware of, and I think it's something to be commended.
Well, Zvika, thank you so much for speaking to One India. Really appreciate your time and inputs here. Zvika Klein, the editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post, joining us on this fateful day of October 7th, all the way from Jerusalem. We wish you, your family, and your countrymen all the very best, Zvika.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
எண்ணம் போல் வண்ணங்களுடன் கொண்டாட The Chennai Silks ஆடைகளுடன் Let the